Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Jared?
How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
How are you tonight?
Oh, not too bad. Just taking it easy tonight.
There you go.
You know, I enjoy all the podcasts, listening to everybody, and I never really, I always just kind of thought it'd be neat to hear somebody talk about guys in, the Midwest coyote hunters, some stuff on there, and
Yeah.
I never heard any on any of them, and I don't know, I just thought, well, maybe I ought to ask him. Who knows, maybe he would consider doing something like that or not, I didn't know, but.
No, I'm always up for suggestions. I don't know everybody, and there's some gems out there that I don't know, so I'm always up for a good suggestion. But while you have some good suggestions, and you act like you don't have some great story to tell, heck, just that little message you sent me, a paragraph about yourself, heck, I think you've got enough to share.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm really worthy of that, but I do. I mean, dabbled into a lot of different stuff. I mean, I do have some experience and all with different kinds of dogs, but I don't know if I've ever had any that I excelled at or have been near as good as. There's a lot more people probably to interview out there than me, I would say, for sure.
Well, you said that you've been on the cover of which magazine?
The Hunter's Horn.
The Hunter's Horn, okay. I couldn't remember exactly which one you said it was.
Yeah, there's two foxhound magazines, the Chase and the Hunter's Horn.
Mm-hmm.
But I had I don't remember the age I was, but I guess in '98 I won the Missouri Governor's Cup. Got put on the cover for that. But yeah, that was a pretty big deal. That was pretty cool. That was definitely something that was and it takes a lot of work to do that, and they still have that today. Of course, there's not near as many trials as there once was, but
now, what kind of dog were you hunting at that point?
She wasn't registered, but she was, full American foxhound run walker foxhound. Okay. Yeah, which is pretty much in the Midwest here. Any of the surrounding states out where I'm at, they're all mostly registered Hunter's Horn under foxhounds, and mostly walkers. But there is some trig, and there's still probably some Goodman around, or there was whenever I was into it. And then there's several Julys, but or they could be crossed up. But yeah,
and most people that I've talked to with running dogs tend to have walkers.
Yeah,
but,
that's the primary one for sure.
Oh, yeah.
However, in southern Missouri, there is a lot of Julys, and there has been ever since I can remember, and still is today, I believe. But
I'd like to talk to somebody with some Julys, because there's a lot of rumors around Julys being slipped into the leopard breed.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because I didn't know leopard breed, even though I lived right here where, leopard breed was pretty strong at one time and real close to us. And I, just finding that out in recent years. But there's some guys that back when I was really into the daylight coyote hounds, had some a strong breeding. It's called Krogan, Krogan bred dogs that are running walkers that people use for more daylight coyote hunters, which is run and catch dogs.
Yep.
And there is some July in a lot of those too.
Okay.
Well, there's some guys in northern Missouri that had dogs. I never talked to them about it, but they have dogs that came out leopard colored, or they looked all black with almost black and tan looking.
Yeah.
And after I've gotten leopards, I'm really confident that somewhere in the woodpile a leopard hound or leopard cur was, slipped in on that with those with that line of dogs because that color is so prevalent, which it could
Yeah.
have came out from the July's, but
Yeah.
it could have certainly been a leopard in the wood pile somewhere too. I'm guessing, but
Yep.
they're really good dogs, and I like a lot of them. But
Mm-hmm.
and then of course I like the color, but that line that guy had, and I still see people having them today. But what I can keep up with a little bit, see, but
Mm-hmm.
um, over the internet. But that's kind of funny you say that. So I don't know the July, in leopard hounds, a leopard hound maybe. I don't know the cur part of it. I think that I don't think you would want July in there, but yet that would. I'm just thinking more, for tree and coons and
Yeah.
squirrels and that sort of thing. Now, people that use leopards for the bear, it may be better.
Yeah.
It may help bring some ag in there, but
Bring some speed, make them pick their head up,
yeah,
run a
yeah,
track
maybe
a little
so.
better.
Yeah, yeah,
Which,
which
especially in North Carolina, where a lot of these leopards came from, they did a lot of running bears, so that's why
yeah,
it wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
yeah. Coming on. Definitely wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I don't know. And then I think about hearing people talk about some of those other things. I wonder how widespread like those Krogan bred running walkers are out because they really got some game sense to them, and really want to stretch out and get after something and
Mm-hmm.
catch it, run to catch dogs. But I don't know. I don't know how widespread they are. I really don't know. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
whenever I was into them and growing up, I thought, that, that was all that you wanted. But after the internet gets out and then these podcasts and different things, it's kind of interesting. There's lots of different worlds of dogs out there for sure.
Yep.
But I mean, it's kind of all the same. But then again, they're definitely different. Obviously, the traits of the dogs you want to be different. All I knew deer dogs was a big thing, but I don't think I really knew how big of a deal they were.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there.
Oh, definitely. No, I've only gotten a little taste of it, and talked to a couple guys with them.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Those three names. I wish you doing these podcasts and these other guys doing those podcasts. There's so many guys. I wish it was 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That when they were still around and get some of those old stories. Just be pretty interesting to
Oh, I know. There's
hear.
quite a few people that I wish that I know about now that are no longer around, and it's like, man, I wish I could have talked to him, or
Yeah,
just these guys you hear about. Like, I'm big into leopards, so obviously like Richard McDuffie, and I
right.
just talked to Stacy Barger, and it would have been nice to talk to his dad. So those kind of
Yeah.
guys, and so I'm glad I've talked to some of the guys I have actually. I just found out today that a guest that I had on this spring passed away, Don Page, who had Stevens curse.
Oh,
So
huh, huh.
I'm glad that I
That's
was able to
great.
talk to him, and there's some other guys that are older, and
Yeah,
I'm glad I was able to talk to them. Like, but there's some other
yeah.
guys that
That's
it would have
good.
been like that have already passed away. It's like it would have been nice to talk to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they're all interesting. So, um, just hearing about any kind of dogs,
Yeah,
pretty neat to me. And you do a good job. And I don't know what it is. The best ones to me just seem like the old guys.
yeah,
It doesn't matter which. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of them are just dogs that in my mind, in my opinion, I just can't stand. And I wouldn't own, but I still like listening to the old guys.
yeah,
Talk about stories. Whatever, just older. But I mean, the new ones are interesting too. I mean, I just listened to the one yesterday or whatever of the guy that made the song. The deer
hmm
dogs. And obviously he's young, sound like,
yep.
but
He's
that was really interesting. But
in
yeah,
his 20s, I think.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, so that was interesting to me as well. So yeah.
So,
So
what do you think about being on the podcast?
oh, I mean, I guess if you think it it would be interesting, I guess I would.
Well, good, because we're 15 minutes into recording one, so.
All right, all right. I probably better tell my we got like 6 dogs laying out here being noisy and um try to keep it down.
No, they're
Who's
fine.
recording this? I just
Caught you by surprise.
so they don't start yelling at dogs or whatever. But if my wife's got the pups in here too, she's trying to work on some training on them, and they were playing cards in the other room.
You got a good. Those pups are a good-looking pair of pups.
Yeah, they are.
They seem pretty smart too.
Oh, they're not they're not near as smart as my daughter's pup or young dog we had last summer. Last year this time about the same age, just a year older, or before. And there was just one pup, so that was better, and she's really sharp. These two aren't as sharp, and of course we have a pair of them, and we're trying to do the same things. We let them play together, and that makes it worse, if so you don't have their attention. But
yeah,
so there's some struggles there. They don't listen real well. I mean they're too obedient. Like my wife was saying tonight, they want to. They're afraid to do anything away from what you want them to do. So if you have them sit, and you have them wait somewhere, well then they'll do that. But then whenever you release them or you try to let them go out the door or something, they won't go. They'll just keep sitting.
yeah.
And the brindle one, I touch her on top of the head. I get a little bit impatient. Just and then that's kind of her okay to release. So it's been a struggle with it. It's been a little bit tougher as far as just obedience stuff. With them, and I don't know, never had any of their line of dogs before, anything close anyways. So I don't know. It's a learning curve, I guess. I mean, they're all learning curves, but
They're both Kemmers. They're littermates, right?
yeah, yes,
That's what I thought.
yeah,
Now
they're dual registered. They're original Mountain Cur registered also, but yeah,
nice.
for the OMCBA.
Who do they come from?
Chris Boone in like Central Tennessee.
Yep.
Yeah, he seems like he's got some really nice dogs, and he had a lot of people refer him.
Yeah.
Give me a referral. So I just there's hardly any Kemmers in Missouri left, so I kind of called around, and I wasn't on Facebook for long. I mean, my wife was. We had a account, but I just didn't get on there for years. And I went to start looking for some dogs, and I had to get on Facebook to find anything.
Pretty much anymore. Yep.
Yeah, and Tennessee's as close as I could really find anybody that had some pretty decent looking pups. Their bloodlines and all, and I'd had a few Kemmers in the past, and they just seemed to me like they have a little more nose, a little stronger nose. Yeah. And so since we primarily like to coon hunt, that's really what I wanted to try to get a little bit more into with our dogs. So we'll see how it works. Seems like they definitely have more nose for sure, but they're still pretty young. So
no, at some point I definitely would like to try Kemmer.
Yeah,
I've talked to enough guys that have them, and they sound kind of like what I like. But,
I agree.
Unfortunately, there's just only so many hours in a day, and I can only hunt so much, so I try not to overload myself.
Well, and that's just it. Yeah, having too many dogs, just you take yourself the wrong way. If you can't put time into the one or two or three of them, then definitely won't need any more. So I've been guilty of that a lot in my past. Had way too many dogs, but
you got the
and right now
of your whole family hunts, so
that's
family
true.
affair.
And, it wasn't so much like that before when the kids were young, but But now that everybody's older, definitely, all of us do a little bit of hunting with them, so it makes it a lot nicer. And then my wife kind of got a training system in there a little bit more for obedience and all, and then the blood tracking end of it. So she puts quite a bit of time into them. Also, as pups and young dogs. So,
are you gonna? She train the two Kemmers to blood track as well?
Yeah, we haven't hit them real hard with it, but the Brendel one, she let her the one archery buck that I got this year. My daughter was able to recover it with her cur dog, and so it was pretty neat. We let her do the whole thing from scratch, and then we came home and got the Brendel female and took her and let her do the whole track, and she found it. She did a good job. Of course,
awesome.
we already knew what the deer was, but I mean, she did a real good job on it, and so she's worked with her some. But since it's deer season, she hadn't had much chance. She's just been tracking with her, dogs that are finished already. So
when it's people actually needing deer recovered, you don't get the pups out.
Yeah. I mean, we might take them sometimes just to, if it's an easy one to try to follow up and take in behind the old dog or just having them along. With those cur dogs, especially just taking them somewhere and having around people and other strange things is huge with them. I think that's true with every cur I've had, whether it's been leopard or mountain cur or Kimmer or any of them. All the exposure you can give them when they're young to different people and dogs and animals is good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, you told me that you had hounds for a long time. What made you get cur dogs?
I think it's just the era that we're living in now. It just makes a lot more sense to if I'm going to hunt with a dog, with a scent dog, a cur dog makes the most sense because I can, that's in my research, that's made most sense, and it's panned out to be that way. Just because I can hunt them on a 10-acre tract of land, and I can have them handle, and if they start to get off, or if they're treed on the other side, I can call them off the tree and call them to me, So, just for us to be able to hunt and not have to worry about dogs getting out of pocket, and where we live, anyways, there's a lot of 40-acre plots, or in the country tracts of land, or smaller, but could be bigger ones too. But so it just makes it easier to hunt. And I've never really hunted with a tree hound that I really liked.
Okay.
Just didn't suit me, So I've had a handful over the years, and I've hunted with several. Just didn't really have any that I liked. Now I have had some leopards that I liked, but as far as tree and walkers are pretty big around us.
Oh yeah.
And I just never. I know there's lots of them out there that would suit me, but I've just never seen one. So I just kind of always turned me away from it. But wanting to to have tree hounds, I guess. And so we don't have very many rabbits. If we did have rabbits right now, I'd probably have some beagles again.
Okay.
But as far as any other kind of hound, I just don't have the time for it. I do feel like with the curs, the ones I've had, once you do get them finished out, they don't have to have them really in shape for them to go out and perform for you. And they can be kind of crazy in the pen, some of them, but try to keep that in tune. And they can be in the pen for not taking them out hunting for a month or two, and seem like they perform really well, when you are able to get them out. So
they're smart.
That's beneficial. Yeah. that's definitely beneficial too. That's a good thing about them. That before with running hounds, it was a year-long deal. You had to keep them in shape, or if you didn't, then were spending a month just trying to get them back in shape where they could keep pads on their feet, and keep their toenails. Otherwise, once they got soft, it may take you a month and a half to get them where their feet harden back up, where they're not feeling their pads every time, or losing toenails.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, I agree, and that's actually what kind of steered me to the cur dogs. Is I live in a fairly growing area, like people are moving out of the cities because I live pretty close to a couple major cities, and so finding places to hunt is getting harder and harder. And I looked around when I started looking at dogs. I wanted hounds originally, but then I found cur dogs, and I'm like, this seems to make more sense for me. Like,
yeah,
a dog that I can call off of property or call off a track, not mess it up because it's smart enough to know that I want it to come back to me, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily doing something wrong.
right.
So, and being able to call them off a tree, and so I don't have to go trudging on the neighbor's property and get in trouble.
Right, yeah, it just makes a lot more sense to me today's day and age. For me, anyways, it
Yeah.
suits us, and I can hunt mine on a small tract of ground, that's, public ground or something next to a 4-lane highway, that most people, wouldn't hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can, an older dog, I can feel confident going there with a GPS on, and I can watch and see, hey, if he starts to get close, I can tone him in and holler at him, he's going to come to me with confidence,
Yeah.
and not be too worried. Where, before there's no way you could do that. Or
Mm-hmm.
I never was able to do that with any kind of hound. But,
Oh, and I'm sure there's hounds that you can.
yeah, I'm sure there is people that can do it. That's another thing I've found in the dog world is there's always somebody out there that they figured it out,
Mm-hmm.
or they can do it better, or they got a better way of doing it. It's a never learning process for sure.
Yep.
There's somebody out there that's got something figured out to make things a little bit better.
But at the same point, the one thing that stands out to me is like, why I'm sure I could go buy a treeing walker and I could get it to do what I need it to hunt the way I need it to hunt. But it's going to take a lot more work to get a treeing walker to hunt the way I need it to hunt and listen and mind. Where a cur dog, that's what they are. They're a they're a closer hunting dog. They tend to mind really well, and it's easy to put a handle on them.
Yeah.
And they seem to want to please me a little better. So it just seems like it makes a little more sense for hunting small tracks. Let's not hunt the dog that's known to go a mile.
Right, get out there and get there fast. Yeah.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that's how the ones are around here. Bred anyways.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's lines of tree and walkers out there that don't hunt that way. That are I've just never been around any of them. But yeah, I turns my stomach pretty quick whenever you go turn loose a dog and they're a mile off already, and when they get treed, and it just doesn't suit me. Doesn't suit the way I want to hunt.
Nope, I understand.
Yeah.
Sounds like me and you hunt a very similar style dog, and for similar reasons. So I get it.
Yeah. Seems like it makes most sense at this stage of my life, anyways, for sure. And we really like them. But yeah, I didn't have many tree and hounds, anyways, through the years. But I've had some cousins that kept several for a while and went, and still enjoyed going hunting anytime, but just wasn't anything that I just really wanted to have for myself, I guess, or keep for myself, the ones I did have.
Yeah. What do you have out there in your kennel right now? Or in your house?
Yeah. So right now, we have we have my old dog is a mostly mountain cur. I don't know. I just got him from a dog trader that was close by, local here, and yeah, I traded for him because I needed one because my old dog had died on me. So he's like 2/3 white and a third spotted brindle dog, and so I don't know if I had to guess. I'm almost thinking his white might come from Feist.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure. He does have a pretty good mouth on him, so it could be hound, but he doesn't really his physical aspects. Other than he has pretty decent ears for a cur dog. That's the only thing that shows could be hound, but I really don't know. But he's been a really good dog. He hunts. He's just a good pleasure dog, and he'll get you something treed, and do a really good job and sound good at it. So, he's mountain cur, but obviously has something else because he's 2/3 white, but I don't know what. And then I have my daughter's young dog. She's a year and a half. She's a original mountain cur. She come from the Clarks in South Central Missouri here. And
are they still raising dogs?
Well, I mean, a year and a half ago they were. I don't know that I've seen them have anything else since, but I think that's the last time I've seen them have anything advertised.
The Clarks. I just remember pre-Facebook days. All the old forums, and they had websites, and they were big time breeders. But
yeah, they had a lot of dogs, and I had several from them, and my cousin has too, and we've had some good ones that we really liked. From them, and I mean, they obviously I've had several came from them, and yeah, I think then their son Nick, he still has some dogs too, but I don't know that they don't have a big amount of them anymore like they did. I don't think,
not to the same extent as back in the early 2000s.
Right. So then we had the year old. We have two like original mountain dual registered dogs that we talked about. All right, the yellow and the brindle one, and then we also have two half Patterdale Terrier, half Jock Terrier.
Okay.
And so the little red dog, you probably see some of the pictures. Three-legged dog. He trees really well, and we take him hunting with us quite a bit. He does a good job. And then the black and tan is my wife's deer recovery dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our hunting dogs, anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's plenty for us to keep hunted up. So
yeah,
for sure.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Your daughter's had some good luck here lately. And doing different things with Indy.
Yeah, so we have three kids, and our two older kids really got to participate, in some hound field trials or, whether hunts, whether it's beagles or foxhounds whenever they were young. But I sold out of foxhounds and didn't have any beagles, after my youngest daughter was kind of old enough to do anything. So we tried to start this past year, try to make a few things where she could, go and just find something we could participate in with the cur dogs. And so we've hit a few of them. So this last year, and it seems like she's always coming home with a plaque or a trophy or something, money or something every time we go. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, really neat that. And we appreciate the clubs doing stuff like that and letting us participate. Like this one we went to last week, it was a hound club, or it was normally a hound event, but they let anything participate. So yeah, we were the black sheep there, but with the fur dogs. But she did well.
That's all right.
Just came home with some stuff. We had fun.
Her dog was showing some hounds up.
Yeah, I don't know if we didn't actually get to hunt together. It was it wasn't a big coon contest, but kind of like a big coon contest for the hunting portion of it. So it was just us went out hunting together there nearby the club, and then we brought all our coons in, and they had a way that you couldn't cheat. So I think they took your two biggest coons and averaged them, and then every other coon you had after those, they added those as bonus points. So
Okay.
I think she got 12th in the coon hunt part of it. I don't know. They probably had, I don't know how many they had, 30 or 40 kids, I would imagine.
Oh, wow.
There was a bunch, yeah. And she got third overall on the bench, so that was good. There was, there's a lot of, all of them are hounds there, but they still recognized that her female was, nice looking, and let her put her up there with the winners, of all the at the end. So that was nice. And then she didn't do as well with the training contest this time as she has in the past, but she didn't place in it, but she was pretty close to placing, I think. But, yeah,
That's awesome.
It was a fun event for sure.
Now, like you just mentioned that you were pretty big into the foxhounds and beagles. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Because,
So
I'm not a big foxhound or beagle person, but if I find it interesting, it's just not something I've necessarily been involved in.
Well, I mean, truth be known, I mean, that's if I had to pick my favorite, what I'm most passionate about, it's definitely foxhound, and then probably beagle second. But it just doesn't work out, in my life right now. So, but I grew up with foxhounds. I think my dad probably got foxhounds right around the time I was born, or maybe a year or two before I was born, and so we always had some there. And it was just there was a local foxhunters club here, just real close to where we live right now, that had a field trial every year. He was part of that club, and that was the biggest weekend of the year for me. As a kid going to that, I'd try to play hooky for, say I had a stomach ache or whatever. That I think, the Friday, when it started or something, I wouldn't. Maybe I'd get out of going to school and go with my dad or something. But
yeah,
it was just a big deal, and I think when I was 11 years old, my dad had given me a pup out of a litter, and he had one and I had one. That he bought, I guess, some pups. And when I was 11, we entered those in that field trial there, and I ended up getting third place, I think, with that female. And it was actually, she was already older, so it would have been younger. I mean, she was already over 2 then. The female would have been when I was 11, but she got third in all age, and I think she won the female class, the bench show, and
nice.
she ended up winning the combination trophy. So I brought these, real big trophies home with me, and I think that's probably the start of the addiction, there for sure from me, if it hadn't already started before winning that stuff. But, and we had foxhounds all the way through. My dad did. Maybe when I was in high school, he had to go to Louisiana for finish up a retirement for a year or so, and my mom and I stayed here. And I think he got out of a lot of dogs then, and then but I had some beagles that I'd gotten just because it, being 16 or younger, they made more sense. I could still go hunting with a hound, and so I had an uncle that had some and got some for me, and all my uncles had hounds too, and I just kind of maybe thinking beagles was a little bit more the route that I would go on my own, and had beagles for up to in my 20s, and I ran into some guys rabbit hunting one day locally here on some conservation ground, public ground, and they had a whole bunch of dogs and just real good dogs, and kind of fell in with them, and they talked me into going some field trials, and they talked me into starting a club here locally, and I got a cousin help me and another friend, and we started a beagle club here. Started doing those beagle trials for several years, and kind of had that bug for quite a while and had some success with that. I think I won some couple state hunts, Missouri State hunts in the UKC, I think, and went to Arkansas and placed pretty high and some hunts and um, just did real well. And then I kind of got the bug again to try to do something with the foxhounds, and when I got a better job, I started buying some of them, and in short, I'd always had dream of doing well in foxhound field trials, and so then that obsession kind of started up from there. And
How old were you about when you started
you
getting
know,
back into it?
I was probably around 20, I would say.
Oh, so you didn't
Uh,
take
um,
a big break.
no, and I still had a lot of beagles then too. So I might have back then. My parents allowed me to still work and went to college and live here. Or if I wasn't living here, I still got to keep dogs here, and I probably had 30 or 40 dogs at times just between foxhounds and beagles. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah. So then I started really trying to just find dogs that can compete at the foxhound field trials, and whether it was on the inside, in the pen, or on the outside. And
Now, which was more common back then?
they were both pretty common back then. There was probably more pen hunts, but there were several pens around. Just because they could have those, every few weeks, whereas it was just an annual deal, probably on the outside that there would be, surrounding counties would have them. It was Foxhounds were a big deal whenever I was, the whole time from when I was born, old enough to remember, till at least into the 90s, but we started to get
Yeah.
to 2000s. I think it kind of definitely started falling off then. But hen hunts were a pretty big deal back in the 90s.
Okay.
That was there was a lot of money hunts or a lot of pup hunts, um, and I tried to compete in those a lot. And uh, I would win every once in a while, or somebody would give me, some of their good pups, and kind of share with me. I was a young guy or whatever, I guess, and I could win with some of them. But and yeah, then I just started trying to go for the big prize around here was the Missouri Governor's Cup. They kept points on the outside field trials all through the year. So the top, I don't know if it's can't remember if it's 50 or 75 dogs from the year. The high scoring dogs would compete, in that trial at
Nice.
the end of the year. And so I started trying to work for that, and then in '98 I ended up winning that.
Impressive.
And yeah, so that was a pretty big deal for me. I was kind of like a goal I'd kind of always wanted to dream, I guess, instead of a goal
Yeah.
to win. So and and I still had beagles for a while, but it just couldn't have both. Couldn't the foxhounds took. Well, I mean, beagles themselves would take a lot of time too if you're field trial. But it takes a lot of effort. But
Yeah.
keeping foxhounds in shape is there's a lot to it for sure.
Oh, definitely sounds
And
like it.
yeah, after I won that though, I kind of switched from to more away from maybe the dogs that were bred more for the field trials, and switched to more outside, just daylight coyote hound dogs, which they're all registered under the same thing. They're just
Mhm.
different lines, work different, work better for different things.
Yeah.
And they, the other, like the field trial bred dogs, in my opinion, they were harder to keep from running deer.
Okay.
And, but the outside dogs, what I call them, daylight dogs, they were, just bred to not run deer. So they were real easy to break, or I had some of them that never did run deer. Just never had to break them off. But so I kind of switched to that.
Now, what's besides the fact that they want to run deer? What else would you say are different from the field trial bred dogs to the outside?
Well, so today's day and age, it's probably changed. But back then, 20 years ago, the big thing to me was, the field trials they have, like especially the big field trials that you had to have down south. They when to champion a dog, it's a 3-day field trial. So for 3 days straight, they run 5 hours a day.
Okay.
And that's just the time that they're scored. You still have to get them caught, otherwise. So they have to have a lot of endurance, and so they can't have much quit. So they're really not easy to handle. Very easy. I mean, they just want to run and run and run.
Yeah.
And stay after game. And then, just in my opinion, the dogs that did well at that and hustled like that and were had that endurance. A lot of that breeding come from down south, where some of those places they have run deer also, or can run deer. I don't know if that's the same. But they were most of the dogs that are bred for that way, or just couldn't hardly break them off a deer. They would run deer. It was hard to keep them from it anyway. So that was a big difference. Now so then the dogs that are bred more to just coyote hunt with, they would handle a lot easier, and so they wouldn't just want to run for 8 hours without you catching them. They would hunt for an hour or two, and if you hollered at them, when they're near the road, they'd listen to you and come to you, easy enough. Or especially once they're they know what's going on, because they know that you're going to take them somewhere to where there's a better race going on or something, and they were easier to break off of deer races for sure.
Okay.
Or maybe not even mess with them at all. That was, and I guess the other dogs weren't really bred to catch, so they may not even bay anything, where the daylight dogs were bred to catch, so they would bay and they would fight. So and they could take care of things till the end, and
yeah,
and they would definitely had that bred into them too. So there was a lot of grit in those dogs.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was listening to a podcast today, and it was talking about dogs that are bred for competition. Squirrel and coon hunts a lot of times are hard going, run 800 yards between trees. They're not the same thing as that little pleasure dog, that little super accurate little feist that's going to tree every squirrel between here and that 800, the dog that's 800 yards away. But in a competition, when that dog's 800 yards away and it's treed, you're constantly walking to it. So it's like that dog wins a lot of times, but it's not necessarily the most accurate, most fun squirrel dog. And the same thing with coonhounds. It's you can have a nice, accurate, maybe not as fast, but more pleasurable dog to hunt with. But those dogs that get treed quick and you're walking to them, that's time and they're fast.
Yeah, there's definitely, that's what it takes to win. It sounds like we've only been to one cur dog hunt so far, and I didn't do the squirrel hunt that weekend because we were driving home that same day. So I slept in that morning, but we did do the night hunt the night before, and we competed. We did all right on that. But I think we would have been surprised if we would have went out. I should have probably tried to go out in a later round with the squirrel dogs just to see them. But I mean, obviously the dogs that at least my daughter's female. I mean, she's got a lot of dogs that she's out of that have done well, so they're bred that way. We just never really tried to have her geared up to do that, and so
Mm-hmm.
it'd be interesting to go to one. But
No, I mean, I think a dog that can tree its own game, no matter what, is you're going to stand a chance to compete. But it's
yeah,
the dogs that there's also a difference between the levels of competing as well.
right, exactly.
You're not
Yeah,
gonna you're not buying $1,000 entries for truck hunts.
right. That's right for sure. Not really wanting that caliber of dog either. I guess we just
Yep.
So that's definitely for sure.
So it makes sense that the foxhound world's the same deal. It's a
Yeah,
little different
yeah.
style.
And I haven't been involved with it for quite a while. I don't know where they're at now, but I'm sure it's had to make some changes since I got out, just because there's a lot less places doing it now. So
Yeah. Well, it sounds like running dogs has been a major part of your life. That's for sure.
yeah, oh yeah, most definitely. Once I did, I guess I didn't finish the foxhound deal. I had them for a long time. Then they like dogs and really enjoyed them. It got to be where it kind of ruled my life, and that's all I did. So I was buying or selling dogs, or talking about where we were going to go hunting, or going to the next state hunting, and it just seemed like that's all I really did. And so after some life changes and some you know I just made the decision to sell out, and realized after I sold out how much it ruled my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't couldn't keep them, and I was just into it too much. That's all I did all year long was talk about dogs, or it took first place and everything, and that was just too much. So
Mm-hmm. No, I understand.
that I realized that myself. After thinking about it, and so sold out, and don't even know how we paid the bills. After I quit, how much money was spent in dog food and gas and everything. But I never got out of dogs.
That's one thing that amazes me. When guys talk about having, and you even mentioned it, having 30 or 40 dogs, that's the first thing I'm thinking. I'm like, how in the world do you afford to feed that many dogs?
Right. Of course, back then, I mean, I could buy probably 10 bags of dog food now. Whatever I would buy, give for 40 bags back then. Back then I'd get it for $10 a bag if I bought it by the ton.
Yeah.
And you know, now you can't buy 10 bags, for $400.
Yep.
Where back then I think that's what I give for a ton was $400 if I remember right. So a lot of difference in price for sure.
Yep.
But
But there's still people today that feed that many
oh
dogs. So
yeah, that many plus, yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
just
most
baffles
definitely.
me. I'm like, even I got friends at bear hunt and they got packs of 10, 15 hounds, and I'm like, oof, I don't want your feed bill.
Right. Well, I can remember even it was a huge change back then, but I remember 9/11. Before that, I had some acreage fenced in and with rabbits in it, and I raised a lot of beagle pups, and I would start them and sell them, at starter age pups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whenever I had to quit that because the trucking prices, went up, and things didn't go up very much, but it seemed like it was huge back then, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't afford it. People weren't buying dogs, like they once did
Yep.
after that. So I had to sell most of those beagles just because it just didn't make sense. I couldn't sell them
Yeah.
like I did. And, it's just amazing how I thought that was a big price hike. Well, yeah, try triple or whatever it is now, from
Yep.
then. And then, the price of equipment, it's
Ooh.
the telemetry that, whenever I know I was pretty young when we got radio telemetry, and it was expensive then, but that same radio telemetry, of course, the batteries had to be replaced, but at least the tracking equipment, still had, my dad's stuff, whenever I sold out, whatever it was,
Yeah.
20 some years later, that stuff
Lasted
lasted.
forever.
And now the stuff we have is way more convenient, but it's pretty expensive and it doesn't last very long compared to
Exactly.
the telemetry,
Yep.
or it's outdated pretty quick, so
Yep.
that's the other aspect, how expensive that is.
No, definitely.
Things have definitely changed in some ways, and other ways, I guess maybe they haven't. Of course, you don't get any money for anything now. There's, you can't give away further now, or
Exactly.
before you could,
You could make some money on fur. You could, like you said, dog food was cheaper.
Yeah, and you could sell dogs because everybody had dogs,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, compared to now,
There was a market for the dog, where today
yeah,
it's, I'm not saying there's not, but it's not the same.
yeah, definitely way different. Yeah, there's just a fraction of the people that hunt dogs now that whenever I was young.
Well, you figure, hound and cur puppy prices now are the same that they were 15 years ago when I started in this.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You could buy a well-bred mountain cur for $250 then, and you can still buy one today for $250.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's guys that are selling pups for more. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
you can still find them for that.
Yeah. And in 15 years, the price of everything else to keep them has went up
Yep.
double or 2.5 times or something probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's just no way that I could do it like I used to. It'd just be way too expensive. But of course, I live a lot different life now. A lot better life just with a few dogs. So,
Yep.
not that I say that I don't miss it. I mean, it definitely was. It was a lot of fun to hunt those hounds, but just just can't do it. Just doesn't make sense. But there's still guys doing it today, around us, and still can do it in some spots, And I haven't went hunting since I got rid of them, just because I just feel like it's kind of like an alcoholic going to a bar. You're just asking for it. So I've stayed away so far. I've still yet to. The only time I've ever been around a foxhound is when they have their annual foxhound field trial here at our Henry County
Okay.
Club. Every year we go over there and help, or watch, or their dogs get over there on us. So we can hear them, even if I got something going on, or we'll try to maybe help them judge some. But those are the only foxhounds I've seen ever since I sold out.
Nope, I understand.
These cur dogs, though, they seem to uh, satisfy me for sure. They they they're really fun to hunt, and they're pretty versatile. They can,
Yeah.
we can do a lot of stuff with them. We really wanted to try one for that deer recovery stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I told my wife I thought just like that whenever we got our yacht terrier to do that, and we talked about it. I really thought we could do that, still hunt them too, because they just seem like they can be trained that way. And
Yeah.
our daughter's cur dog, she knows when we put that harness on her that she's ready to look for a wounded deer, and we just load her up to go to the woods. She knows, hey, we're gonna if it's daytime, she's gonna be looking for squirrels, and if it's nighttime, she's gonna look for a coon.
Yeah.
And if she has the harness on, she's looking for a deer. And she pretty much, we haven't had any trouble out of her yet. She hasn't ever tried to mess with a varmint on a deer track yet, and she's never offered to try to run a deer, obviously. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of training goes in with that deer recovery though. So it's not just trying to find put her on a deer track. It's pretty involved.
Yeah. And I have a friend that does some deer recovery work with a bird
Yeah,
dog, and he said the same thing. He's like, when I'm bird hunting, he goes, I don't have any trouble with
yeah,
her, trying to run deer or anything. And it's like
yeah.
when
Well,
she's got the
the
harness on,
next,
like you said, she's all business
yeah,
and looking for that deer.
yeah. it makes perfect sense once you learn about it. It's pretty involved. It's a pretty complex thing, really. I've learned a ton since my wife has started this from the symposiums we've been to, and just the tracking world. The people are pretty supportive of each other. But man, I've learned a lot about scent and dogs with that. And so, I mean, that dog, you're training it to smell the wounded that wounded animal's putting off this pheromone and its hooves, the gland out between its hooves it's putting out this pheromone through that gland that's different and it's different odor to them than any other thing they're doing. So
yeah,
that's what we're training them to follow is
okay,
that, and so it makes sense. I guess we've yet to be out coon hunting and our dogs, or doing anything, and our dogs, try to track a wounded deer that is wounded, fatally wounded. I'm sure that may happen sometime. They may try to follow it because that's what we. But even that way though, if we don't put her on it to begin with, we always do it kind of the same way. We put the harness on and we have them on a leash. We have to have them on a leash in Missouri,
mm-hmm.
and a 30-foot leash. So if all that's not in the mix, I don't know that she would do anything with it either. But I
Yeah,
haven't ran in that situation yet. But they call it blood tracking, but it's really, blood is just a bonus. But most of the time people call, there's not a blood trail, or they'd be able to find their deer anyway. So
yeah.
um, yeah,
No, it makes a lot of
it's,
sense.
yeah. And it's really interesting how much you're training that dog to follow that scent, and you're training that dog to find that old scent. Because most of the time we go, it's usually 24 hours after the shot, and that scent's still there for a long time, and that it just amazed me when I first started learning about it. Because to me, having pack hounds and running hounds or beagles, all my life, I just thought that those smell the scent for very just not very old, and then the
Yeah,
scent they weren't capable of smelling it. Well, that's not the case. Every dog can smell that scent. When it's old, you just got to teach them that's what you're wanting to do is follow that. That
yeah,
scent's there for a long time. They're just all automatically, most of the hounds automatically know that, hey, this one's a little too old for me. I smell that, that track was laid, whatever, 12 hours ago or however, that bloodline is kind of bred, but they leave that alone
mm-hmm.
because they're looking for a hotter scent.
Yep,
Where even, a Chihuahua can smell good enough to smell that old scent there, but once you train them that this is what you want them to do, and they're going to get a reward at the end of it. Well, they my wife has tracked stuff. I don't know. I'd be wrong if I quoted it, but I know at least a 34-year-old, over
wow.
40-hour-old tracks. That from shot,
Mm,
and recovered the deer. So and that's from following the scent trail. From the hit site.
jeez.
Just amazing that scent stays there that long. But pretty much any dog has that capability of, as far as the nose goes, to be trained for that. It just amazes me that, that I never would have dreamed that, all my life of, being around dogs. I didn't know they had that capability, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty interesting.
No, I mean, before all these podcasts, I would have never known that either. You know, heck, these podcasts have given me education. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, me too, for sure. That's definitely the reason why I like to listen to it. Whether I'm interested in that make or model of the dog or whatever, it's still can learn a little bit about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last spring, I had Harry Elliott, I think is his last name, and he has mountain curs, but he hunts mountain lions out in Wyoming. But
Okay. Yeah.
he sold a dog to somebody that was doing search and rescue, and he said, you know, what he's learned from the guy that got the dog for search and rescue is, you know, just because it's vastly different, and but learned a lot from this guy that calling him and giving him
Yeah.
kind of updates and reports on how the dog's doing.
Yeah, I remember that one. I was very interested in me too. Yeah, too. And so that kind of goes in hand to hand with what I'm talking about with the blood tracking world.
Yep.
The amount of just knowledge that I've gotten from those people that you know, and there actually has been some search and rescue people at some of those symposiums too, and people doing that. And it's just amazing that dogs could be used that way, and the same dogs that we're using, we just didn't really realize that they had the capability. It's
Yep.
just really the knowledge of knowing that they can and how to get them to do it for you. Really.
Yep. No, but you figure
Yeah.
nobody's putting money into studying coonhounds and foxhounds and beagles
Right.
in the
Right.
in the sense of them hunting game. Like there's no money to
Right.
be made in that. People are studying dogs and putting a lot of effort and education into, search and rescue, into police
Right.
work, into different things like that, which is all scent work, which all ties in, but there's, money, lives to be saved and stuff, money to be made on that end. Where us hounds, there's not, so they don't really focus on us, and sometimes
Right.
I think we get so focused on what we're doing that we don't realize that we can learn from people that are doing something vastly different, but it
Yeah. I
still
think you
ties
well
in.
said or well put. Because yeah, I think anybody in the dog training world, you can learn from somebody. There's so many things I've learned over the years on my own or from somebody else that's just game changing. And I just think if I would have known this, earlier or whenever I was, hunting this style of dog or doing these kind of field trials, if I just would have known that, it could have made things so much easier for me.
Yep.
Um, or having the knowledge I know now, whenever I was gung ho on really trying to win, and when I was younger, uh, there's just so many things. The obedience is huge too. I, I won't ever have a dog, or don't plan to ever have a dog again that's not fully obedient trained first. Right out of the gate. 8 weeks
Mhm.
old. House trained and place trained, and whether we're going to keep them in the dog pen all their life or not, if you take them somewhere, for the weekend and you already have them house trained, it's huge. Or just having them where you can have them sit somewhere, and if you don't have a dog box, you can still have them sit and listen to you and wait. If you have an accident on the side of the road or whatever, I guess
Yeah.
it just all that's really a big deal. I think that I wish I would have. Of course, with 40 dogs, it's kind of hard to do, and when you're young and whatever, different
Yeah.
style dog, but it probably wouldn't fit, a, you know, somebody that has pack hounds, but especially somebody that's just hunts 1 or 2 dogs or whatever. I think that in itself is huge.
It makes a lot of
Um,
sense. I never even thought about place training in the sense of like an emergency like that. Like that that's huge. Something
yeah,
happens and all of a sudden you need to do something with your dog, which I've had happen. I
yeah,
got into an accident and I'm, tying dogs to trees. Luckily there was trees there to tie dogs to, but
right.
there would have been nothing, you know. So
Yeah, I really think if a person, number one, you're, and probably the biggest thing is you're building a bond with that dog, and if it's any kind of activity you're doing with your dog that's one on one, that bond is, one of the biggest things with it, for them to want to work for you or perform for you, so you get that established, real quick right out the gate, along with that obedience training. And that's half the battle, a lot of times, I think.
yeah,
If you just buy a pup and mess with him, an hour a day and put him in a dog pen, until he's ready to take to the woods, that's easier that way, but it sure helps you put that homework in first. And depending on the breed of the dog, like we mentioned earlier, the cur dogs, if you don't do that, if you just keep them in the pen, you just keep them around yourself. Depending on the bloodline on them, I've had lots of them that might try to bite somebody else, or I anytime if I buy an older cur dog for somebody, I learned that you got to put your dog collar on them and a leash on them with a leash out the dog box whenever you leave that person's house. Because when you get home, you may not get them out of the dog box, not because it's just a cur dog. If they're not used to people and strange places and stray things, you may wonder how in the world you're going to get him out of the dog box because he's going to bite you.
Yeah.
And you just give, hundreds or $1,000 for it.
Oh, I've had it happen. I bought a dog. Now, she wasn't mean. Didn't try to bite anybody, but I had the guy that my mentor that kind of got me involved. I was like, I called him up. I said, hey, I'm looking for a dog. He found a dog, and he's like, you want me to go hunt with her? What do you want me to do? And I'm like, yeah, go hunt with the dog. If you think she's worth it, buy her. I'll be out in a couple weeks. So he did.
Yeah.
He went and hunted with the dog 2 or 3 times. He said, hey, she's fat, she's out of shape, but she can tree a coon, Needs some tuning up and get her in shape, but he's like, she's worth money. I said, all right, buy her. I get out there, we cut that dog loose, and she looked like an idiot. Just didn't want to hunt, didn't tree, was slick treeing, it's hard to catch, had all kinds of issues. And it took me owning that dog for a month and her just getting used to me and settling in.
Yeah.
Which
a month isn't very long for a cur dog. Sometimes it can take longer too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
So, luckily I didn't have any major issues, but it was definitely a learning experience of they're quirky and they like their people and
so. Even if they've been acclimated well, you should probably just, if you're buying a dog that's got a little bit of age to it, you should probably just plan on it, anyways, because it might likely happen. But or that, or the other aspect is just if you want to go hunt with somebody every once in a while,
yeah,
because usually if you go with somebody and your dog's not acclimated, it may not even hunt, around other people. So then you get to be where you don't, you can't go hunt with anybody because your dog won't hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to that. So
no, definitely, these old cur dogs are quirky. That's for sure.
Yeah,
takes a lot of work to make sure that they're not. They got to get them used to a lot of things. Where I don't know. Sometimes the hound that is quote unquote dumb, but sometimes dumb just doesn't care about anything else. It wants to go tree a coon every time you cut it loose.
yeah, definitely. So the cur dogs I've learned. It took me. So whenever I sold out, I had cur dogs for a while, and I learned. It took me several years before I really figured out that I've been doing wrong on cur dogs, and I've been going through a lot of them, and I got rid of a lot of them that now I know were good dogs. I just didn't know how to hunt cur dogs.
Yeah,
cur dogs. You gotta, like I said, we already mentioned, acclimate them well when they're young. If you have them young, and then you got to be patient with them. Whereas give them some time to get used to you, or and like I said, some of them might take 6 months or so before they really take up with you and do that. And then you can't be stern with them like a hound whenever you're trying to correct them. You can really break one's spirit where they may not even ever hunt for you again. If you can't treat them like a hound. You gotta find other ways of correcting them. E-collar is pretty good. I never had any trouble with that. That's always worked well for me. But they don't take much. They're just or a hound, you really had to do a lot to get their attention. Where cur dog, you can just a stern voice might be good enough. Or just you got to be careful.
I've found the same thing.
Yeah, those 3 things took me a long time to figure out. Though I went through. I had some really good dogs. I just didn't know I did.
Yeah.
And got rid of them too fast. And I wish I had some of them back, let get away for sure. But
I understand.
they can be pretty good dogs. At least they can fit us our program the way we like to do things really well.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's better ones out there, and I'm anxious to see. I've never been around a Faulkner cur before, but I noticed you had got one.
Yep.
Interesting in seeing how that turned out. I think I've had one Stevens one time, but I didn't give it the time of day either. But so mainly all I've had is mountain curs, or I think there was a Mountain View cur for a while that somebody had. I had
Yep.
one of those, but to me it was about like a mountain cur if I remember correctly. But
yeah, they were like an offshoot of the Kemmers.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited about my little Faulkner cur. See what she does.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting for sure. Interested in them all for sure. But
mm-hmm. If I had time, like if I didn't have a job, all I did was hunt, I'd probably buy, you know, a, a Stevens, a Faulkner, a Kemmer, String Tennessee Brindle, and a Mountain Cur, and I'd hunt all of them, and just to see the difference.
Yeah.
See the similarity, see the difference. They're all
But
very similar, but
yeah, I agree. But I think the mountain curs, especially, or the OMCBA dogs. I think on bloodlines you can get a big variance in them as
oh
well.
yeah,
On stuff. The other dogs, I don't know if there's enough of them to really out there that get very far off
mm-hmm.
as far as. But there is a lot of OMCBA dogs. You can get a big variance. You can kind of follow bloodlines that work for you like. I
Yep.
think what I've found. But that's kind of why I went with these Kimmers, because I'm trying to stick more with a maybe older style dog.
Yep.
And something with a little more nose, and something that just seems like this Kimmer line tries to stick closer to the older stuff.
Yep.
And not to say that where it's at now is there's anything wrong with them. They're good dogs too. They seem like they're just more with squirrel sense, and maybe they may have just as good a nose too. I'm just in my opinion, that's kind of my game plan, is to try to stick with the older stuff, and
No, I'm
I
right
think
there with
it
you.
suits me better.
I'd probably go that route too. But at the same point, I'm mainly a coon hunter, and secondly, I like to bear hunt, and third, I like to squirrel hunt. So
Yeah,
buying a dog that's bred to be a squirrel dog is not my top priority.
right. Exactly. That's the same with me too. I fantasize about trying to tree some bobcats. We have a lot of bobcats, and we just don't have a lot of snow. But
Yeah.
they did extend our season a month. This year is the first year, so it goes later. So I'm hoping this winter gives me more opportunity to get out on a snow weekend and try to find some cat tracks and see what I can do.
There you go.
I know I've been after a cat twice this year. I saw one across the road and put my daughter's young female was the only thing I had. Put her on it, and she went pretty quick on it for a couple hundred yards, and then she tried to sit down and tree, and it was summertime, And I went in there to her, and I could see the trees for quite a while, and I never seen anything bail out when I got there. So I don't know if it, went up the tree and came back off, or I don't know what it did. But I'm sure it was the cat that she took there. But
Yeah.
that cat hunting's pretty extensive too.
Oh
I've
yeah.
tried to learn a lot about it, but it depends on where you're at. If they will tree, or how hard you got to push them.
Yep.
It seems like if I really wanted to do it, and pursue it, I'd have to have kind of like the dogs I got away from, running dogs, or at least part run dogs in our region, to be able to get on hard enough to get very many of them. But I have talked to one guy that lives in Missouri, and there's a few guys that do kind of primarily have a pack of dogs just for bobcats, but it's pretty uncommon around here.
Oh yeah. Same thing here in Pennsylvania. We only have a month long. Well, it's like 3 week long season on cats, so it's like not many people prioritize cats. There are a few people that do, but most people that run cats are either running them with their fox and coyote dogs, they're coon dogs, or they're beagles. So they're hunting them with dogs they hunt on other game the rest of the year, but then for that month they go and target cats. But I would say majority of those are shot on the ground versus treed.
Yeah, I think that from what I've gathered, I think they'll tree here if you push them hard enough. But
okay.
In my running dog days, I did catch a few bobcats, on the ground. I do think that dogs got after bobcats some, but I don't think they knew to look up and stay up. I remember one time we treed one. It wasn't my dogs that were there that day, but they just went up a short tree close, and those dogs did kind of tree a little bit. And but only a handful of times over a decade, I can remember, something happening with a bobcat. So,
yeah.
And then beagles seemed like beagles would chase them, some, but they couldn't stay on them long enough to, or maybe they did put them up a tree and they just didn't know it too. I don't know. And I've never treed one like her dogs. I can't believe it. But before this year, I never, treat one, and I just don't know how. I treat them with coon dogs, a handful of times when I was younger. But
yeah,
I have that goal to try that if we can get some snow to hang around long enough this winter to try
definitely.
to put
That'd
them
be
on
awesome.
some and see what happens. But yeah, it'd be pretty fun. But we have a lot of cats, but
Okay.
we trap some, but and shoot maybe one, predator calling or whatever. Or our cousins here next door to us, where seems like we've gotten several cats the last 3 or 4 years. But,
Okay.
at least a couple every year. But we see a lot of them.
There you
Just
go.
don't really have dogs that you just go try to run one with this any time. So I pretty much have to have snow. So I'm guessing to put on to see what happens.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And like I said, it's kind of similar up here. So
Yeah.
it's hard when you don't live in an area that's got snow a bunch, or
Yeah.
that has a cat population where you can that's all you're gonna run.
Right. Yeah.
Like in Texas.
Right.
There's guys down there that's all they do. So
Right. And that's what the dogs are. Know that's what they're going to do. And they use a big pack of them too, for sure. That'd be a lot of fun. It's pretty neat down there. But I'd be back in the same game as what I was with the running dogs. So that's all I'd be doing. So I can't do that, or don't want to, anyways.
I understand.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to get a few every year in the wintertime if we can get enough snow to try it.
Well, you have to keep me updated. I'd love to hear if you do.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we're on social media together enough.
Yep.
I'll be excited about it for sure if I ever do. It'll be a big deal to me.
Yeah, definitely. I would be the same way. So, well, got anything else for tonight?
Oh, I don't know. I rambled so much, don't even know really. Hopefully you got something to be interesting out of it. I don't know.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
You got a lot of experience with a lot of variety of dogs and game, and
yeah, we've kind of bounced around all my life, but I guess it kind of keeps you on your toes and learning stuff. And I think all of them, everything you learn about any kind of dog helps you in whatever game you're going to play with them, I guess.
Yep. No, I agree.
Appreciate giving me a chance to talk, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you being a good sport for me springing this on you.
Yeah, well, that's no problem.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.